All right, welcome, Loans Can Be Fun family.
Yeah, welcome.
We're joined here with John Clayton with Supra Chiropractic today.
Yeah.
Super excited to hear about what he does and how he can help you out with any of your pains.
Yeah, and I went in there because I wanted to see what it was like, because this was my first chiropractic experience, because my dad was an orthopedic surgeon and told me not to like chiropractors growing up. But there is a difference. I have realized that there is a difference between chiropractors.
The walk-ins.
Yeah, so we want to go through that, but kind of give us an introduction to your company and to you and what you do.
Okay. So I'm John Clayton, or most people know me from either YouTube or social media as, Dr. John Clayton.
Okay.
And so I started Supra Chiropractic back in 2020. So it was February 2020.
And just brand new, not really, but
yeah, it's
right
still,
during COVID.
Yeah,
That's
fairly
fun.
new. So the way it kind of looked was the first month I was super excited. So February, get it going, and then March 1st was basically COVID. And so that's when everything just hit the fan. Yeah. So
exactly.
So in the end, it was good because I had gone into it with very little expense. We hadn't bought a house or anything at the time, so it was like I put money into the business, but then my overhead was pretty low, and so I was able to survive with COVID.
Yeah.
And then
so would people still come in?
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
Sometimes I actually had a pretty good basis with pregnant women at the time and treating them, and then their OBs actually told them, "Hey, don't go in to see any other doctor but them."
Yeah.
And so it did drop quite a bit. And so looking back at it now, it's like, I thought, I was busy or this, and it's like, I'd see as many people, in a week that I see in a day now, or half a day now.
Yeah,
so,
you're super busy.
Yeah,
so how long is most appointments? Like somebody just comes in, how long would you say an average appointment is?
For me, I schedule it at like 15 minutes for like an adjustment typically.
Okay.
So, but most chiropractors, I always say, if you're, and we can kind of get into it more, but usually like a walk-in appointment for most like walk-in chiropractors, you're looking like 30 seconds to even like 2 minutes somewhere in there.
Really?
And then like a standard
That's
chiropractor.
all that bring you in and pop you and send you anywhere?
Yeah,
pretty much.
It's the business model, right?
Interesting.
And so that's kind of how I'll go over everything from what I've understood. And I could be, obviously not all of it's like, gospel or whatever, but because I'm not a walk-in chiropractor per se. And so someone that is a walk-in chiropractor may look at it and go, that's not how it is. But I'll kind of talk about it more from like the business end of it, where it's like, that's a business structure within chiropractic. Okay. Then you have like your, let's say, regular chiropractor or routine chiropractor. Their visits are like 2 to 5 minutes maybe.
Okay.
Sometimes up to 10 depending on the patient.
Okay.
But yeah,
I had no idea. I had no idea that any of that was
usually
different.
2 to 5 somewhere in there. And then my appointments, depending on the appointment, what it is, whether it's just like a full body adjustment or like the adjustments that I do on people.
Yeah.
Those are about 15 minutes.
Okay.
But then you've got the other specialties that I focus on, and why I consider myself a specialist chiropractor. And those appointments are like 30 to 45 minutes long, typically.
Yeah, because like when I came in, we were probably there half hour, 45 minutes. But you were, we did dry needling and we did a bunch of different things.
Yeah.
I mean, he did the whole body and cracked everything I didn't even know cracked.
We were goofing off too.
Yeah, we were goofing off. That is not like us. Never. We would never do that.
So I have to ask, and I'm sure they're wondering too, why Supra Chiropractic?
Yeah.
So part of it is kind of from the business perspective. When we first started chiropractic school, they said, hey, in the back of your mind, if you ever want to be a business owner, have some ideas of what name you'd want for your business. And I'd kind of written 3 different ones out there, and I think the number one, I think I have a picture of it still, was Supra Chiropractic. And part of it, as I progressed through school and kind of learned more about business as much as you don't learn
in
school.
Yeah.
Right.
So
did your dance class help? I'm just kidding.
Yeah, a little bit, right? But for me, I wanted to have a name that wasn't just your typical, Clayton Chiropractic, right? Because most chiropractors, they just use their name and then the word chiropractic. Mm-hmm. And then more so nowadays, they're picking a term within chiropractic that relates to what they're interested in, or kind of what they like or a word that they like, and then put chiropractic on with it.
Yeah.
So like some of them will do ADIO or ADIO chiropractic, which means above, down, inside out, right? And so,
Okay.
so to
Yeah.
like a standard person, they're
don't know
not
what that
they're
is.
going to look at that and go, what does that even mean?
Yeah.
And
What
so
the what? What were you?
yeah, it's like so they're like, well, above, down, inside out
Yeah.
means when you do a chiropractic adjustment and you're healing the body from above, down, inside out, right? And so
Right.
no one
Knows that.
knows that and cares. And so as I've talked to more people, they're like, why would you pick something like that? I mean, it stands out, but at the same time, it doesn't mean
Doesn't
anything
tell
to
them anything.
the public, right? And so I had to kind of find something that was going to relate a little bit better, but to also not have a pure chiropractic term with
Sure.
with it. There already is a Clayton Chiropractic within, I think, 10 or 15 miles of
Where you
Layton.
guys are.
Yeah, and they're in Ogden.
He's located in Layton.
yeah, Layton, Utah. So
I mean Layton. Layton with a T.
Layton, Utah.
Layton,
So-
Utah.
so I didn't want to use Clayton Chiropractic because it doesn't
Do you
really.
see Clayton or Clayton?
Because I lived in California for so long,
Clayton.
I say Clayton.
Okay.
Because
I was just curious, I didn't
a lot of
notice.
people make fun of us from being in Utah, so
Yeah.
they say, we don't say Layton, right? We say Layton and
Yeah.
Clayton. So,
Mountain.
yeah, mountain. So
Hundred.
I wanted to pick a name that. So for one, if you ever needed to franchise a business or create more locations,
That's
you
smart.
could do that. And so you can't do that with a name, like a
personal name.
personal name, right? And so there was the growth aspect of it, but then there was also it has to mean something to you.
Yeah, so what
as well.
does Supra mean, like, to you?
So Supra medically, right,
Yeah.
means above, right? So it
Right.
kind of does play into the above, down, inside out
Yeah.
type stuff. I'm not into chiropractic philosophy by any means, but to me, Supra, when you say above, I think it also should mean that you stand above
Yeah.
the rest and that you try to stand out. And, if you can be the best, right?
One of the things that I noticed so John's in our BNI group. One of the things that I noticed is that his goal is not to have a person come over and over and over again for their life. He's actually trying to fix the problem or help them, know how to do certain things so that they don't continue to have that problem. Whereas my whole philosophy before I met you was they just want you to come back in over and over and over. I mean, and that's how they make their money. Right?
Exactly.
So that's where I was like, okay, I like this guy. I can dig it,
Yeah.
So anyway, that was one thing I noticed that like I appreciated as a person who grew up with an orthopedic surgeon as a
Yeah.
father.
Yeah.
If I ever get over my fear of being cracked in half, I'll probably go there.
Trevor was there when John was doing my adjustment, and I had the dry needling. So I want you to talk about dry needling too.
Okay.
So go into that. But this, so I have chronic like shoulder blade rhomboid issues, and so I let John stick needles in my back. I don't know how long they were because I couldn't see it.
You
Anybody
don't
want
want to know.
Yeah.
So talk about dry needling and what the purpose of that is, because I had never heard of that.
Yeah. So, kind of in a nutshell, it's most people to relate to a term that they know nowadays. It's like acupuncture, right?
Okay.
So most people they can say, okay, I think of acupuncture, think of the needles,
Because they're
and-
thin like acupuncture needle, right?
Just basically the same exact
Except
needles.
they just go all the way through you. I'm just
Pretty
kidding.
much. So depending on what
Pretty
area,
much.
like let's say the shoulder blades or whatnot, when you work through an area like that, the needle needs to penetrate more than just the skin or the
Right.
dermis layers. And so when I do the dry needling, if I'm going to hit, let's say, the infraspinatus on the backside of the shoulder blade,
Yeah.
that needle can go all the way down to the bone because it's safe. It's a safe area to go down to the
There's
bone.
not a lot
And-
of nerve.
yeah,
things
there's
or
not a lot of nerve
vessels or
there.
Whatever you're gonna hurt.
And the muscle, if you want to actually hit the muscle right in that area, the infraspinatus, it's right over the bone of the shoulder blade. So if you actually want to target and help the area, then you
go
do
as
that.
deep as you
So,
can.
Yeah, so go as deep as you
I
can.
didn't notice any bone pain when he
So-
did that.
Yeah,
So you just stick the needle in and then just having a hole makes it release, or like
No,
what?
because
what
he
does it-
twisted the needle so that it
Yeah.
would like grab.
Okay.
yeah. So there's different techniques within it too. People that have maybe had bad experiences with dry needling, they may have done it, 5-10 years ago.
Yeah.
When that like the rotating or the winding of the needle
Yeah.
wasn't utilized as much.
Okay.
They would do kind of more threading, so they would just
Oh,
pull the needle.
okay.
They wouldn't pull it all the way out, but they'd pull it back and forth, back and forth.
That wouldn't feel very good.
And So a lot of people didn't like that.
Sure.
And
Can't imagine why.
And it's scary too, because if you, let's say you're going in an area that has a lot of blood vessels or
Yeah.
nerves around there,
just-
You're gonna end
yeah,
up
you've got more of a chance of
Yeah.
hitting them rather
Yeah.
than
My
just
goodness.
keeping the needle stationary.
Yeah.
So what it'll do, so when the needle goes in, when I do the dry needling, why it's considered dry is because you're applying something to it versus like wet needling, you're applying something wet or liquid through the needle and it's going as an injection into
okay.
the body.
Just has nothing in the needle.
Yeah, there's nothing in the needle. The needle's solid for dry needling.
Okay.
But then you're adding the application of electricity with the needle.
You hooked me up to electricity?
Yeah.
I didn't know
Did I
that.
not do that?
I honestly
I thought
don't
you
remember.
twisted stuff.
I don't think we did
We may
the
not have.
jumper
If I
cables.
do an uneven
I don't think you did
number,
electricity on mine.
I didn't do that.
Because I think I was like, well, we don't need to jump start you today. Like, I think I said that.
Yeah, I think, you already have enough energy, so we don't need
Yeah,
to.
I don't think we did.
Yeah.
I don't even know why people say that about me.
But yeah, no, it's just in the end to help kind of calm down like muscle spasms in
Yep.
people. I've found too that people don't respond to massage as much as they'd like to or as
Right.
much as they used to potentially. The muscles are just, excuse me, too tight. And so you've got to break up the muscle tension. And
So that's the point of dry needling. You go in there and kind of break some stuff up.
yeah, for the most part, yeah. Or basically, another way you could explain it is that if your muscle's beating, at let's say 3 beats per minute, and it should be normally beating at like 1 beat per minute,
Mm-hmm.
and you can contract it as you need to, but it's just like kind of stuck tight.
Yeah.
It's a good way to kind of reset that.
Pace or something.
Yeah, the pace of the muscle or the contractibility of the muscle, so it can let go and you can use.
Because there's nothing better when you have a sore muscle and when you feel it finally.
Yeah.
I call
Just
it
like
give up the
surrender.
ghost.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, now it feels like I'm okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
So it helps with that process. Yeah, it didn't, and to me, it didn't hurt like hardly at all. I mean, obviously you feel a needle go in.
Yeah.
Like I remember when you were twisting it a little bit, where I was like, that feels really weird, but it wasn't particularly painful.
Yeah.
It was just kind of like,
Like, that's weird.
like a sensation
gonna
I've
feel that
never,
again.
I've never felt
Yeah.
before. It was really just something where I was like, I've never felt that, and it felt like it was twisting stuff.
Yeah.
And so, anyway, dry needling's really like that was kind of a cool process. So, what college did you go to or what school did you go to for chiropractic
So
training?
the one I went to, the full name of it is Life Chiropractic College West.
Okay.
But they just shortened it down to Life West.
Okay.
It's in Hayward, California,
Okay.
so the Bay Area.
Okay, cool.
So
And then, so tell us, I mean, for people who maybe don't know chiropractic stuff like me, I thought you know more than I do. Like, what sets you apart?
So I think the biggest thing is going to be like transparency. And when you've talked to anybody that's in a business, the 3 main questions you want to be able to answer as a business owner or someone that's providing a service is the first question of how much is it going to cost? How much time is it going to take? And then there's one more question.
Putting you on the spot.
I'm
I
drawing a
know
blank.
I
Yeah.
don't do well in situations.
Yeah, it's like how much. So how much is it going to cost? How long is it going to take? And then I don't know if it's like
is it going to
what-
fix it?
Yeah,
I don't
like,
know.
yeah.
I
Is it
don't-
going to be fixed? Like
I don't know if that's what
permanently
you're
kind
going
of
for,
thing?
but
And so I think a lot of times when people call chiropractic offices or they are looking into chiropractic as a resource for them, whether most likely they're in pain, right? That's what brings most people into chiropractors is pain. So if you're telling someone, hey, we need to get you out of pain, to me that should be 1 or 2 visits, right?
Right.
And so then the other question of how much is it going to cost? A lot of chiropractors, they don't want to tell you a cost up front because if they get you in, then there's way worse symptoms.
they can add things or they can
they
change
want to be able
things.
to add things and they don't want to necessarily tell you up front. And so it's like we need to change that, right?
Yeah.
And so
Because nobody likes that. Like when you go to buy a car, and all of a sudden they've just
Yeah,
added a $2,000 warranty that you didn't ask for, and all
Exactly,
these different
exactly.
things.
Hidden fees.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh man. But I like that, and that was one of the things I picked up on in just hearing you talk about it, and hearing from other people that have visited you. Is it's like it's just open, honest. Like this is what you need. This is how long it will take, and this is how much it will cost. It was
Yeah.
very simple that way. And there's several people in our group that have gone to him who just are like,
Raving fans.
like
Yeah.
love him because they've like saved, he saved their lives because they've been in so much pain. So
Yeah.
that for me, it's been a little bit different, like experience than what I expected.
So
I guess.
one question from someone who doesn't understand
Yeah.
chiropractic. is it normal to hurt more when you leave and then it get better later? Or is that like, is that like the chiropractor is not as good as you think?
Most chiropractors will try to go more gentle for that reason. They don't want you to have pain when you leave.
Because then you're like, I don't want to go back.
Yeah, because then a lot of them are like, why do I hurt worse in a way?
Right, because I've heard that and I was like, that's another reason I don't want to go.
Yeah, so to me, I actually kind of fall more under the type that sometimes you do leave with a little bit of pain.
Yeah, you're probably going to be a little sore.
Especially if it's like muscle stuff, right? If
Yeah.
I work on a shoulder with somebody, especially like let's say a bodybuilder, a shoulder in a bodybuilder is very, very tight. And so if they're like, hey, I can't do certain movements or I can't strengthen certain muscles, I usually tell them it's because you're so tight in certain areas that you can't open up other areas. So for instance, most bodybuilders are front delt or front shoulder dominant because of their chest.
Yeah,
right?
they make
and so like one guy I just met with, he couldn't activate the middle delt because there's 3 muscles, front, middle, back. And so he had a really good back one, really good front one, but his middle one, there was a divot right there because he just couldn't activate it because his shoulders were too far rolled forward. And so when I went too strong for his own body. Yeah. So I ended up just saying, hey, here's positioning for when you're training. This is how you approach this. So obviously you have to know how to activate that muscle from a workout perspective, but then also saying if your shoulder is too far rolled in, we have to open it up and bring it
so you can bring it back
out like that.
One thing that I remember you talking about is how people breathe.
Yes.
And how that causes problems. Will you tell everybody kind of about that? Because that was interesting, and I've kind of watched myself, and I was like, oh, man.
Yeah. So I think what brings that conversation up the most is when people come in with a rib out of place type symptom, which is usually
So my wife complains about all the time.
Yeah, it's like 9 out of 10 pain, 10 out of 10 pain. It's bad. Like it's borderline. You feel like you should go to the hospital or the emergency room because there's something so wrong that
it hurts so much
that came out of nowhere, right? Okay. So with ribs going out of place, it's typically what I found from people breathing improperly. Because
you think it'd be a natural process.
you would hope so. Well, it is a birth. It is a birth, right? So when people are born or when babies are born, they breathe the correct way because they haven't had society tell them that it's ugly to breathe with their belly, you know.
Right.
So, but as we get older, we're like, oh, we gotta have the gut sucked in.
Suck the gut in. Use your lung. Yeah, use your ribs.
Like, just do little shallow breaths. You know, for guys, have a big chest. For girls, have a big chest, you know, stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
Because it's attractive or that's what society would want you to have, right? So when I work through a rib issue or a shoulder issue or a tight neck, I always say you have to breathe through your belly. You know, or diaphragmatic breathing is the term for it. So
you sound so smart when you say diaphragmatic.
You have to. Diaphragmatic. Yeah, it's the doctor badge, right?
Yeah, it's right.
So for me, when I walk through stuff like this, it's to help people to not have to come back in as often for adjustments.
Because if they're breathing improperly, you just keep coming back because it's like just doing the same motion that causes the injury, so to speak.
And that's why the walking chiropractors do all their business.
Exactly.
Okay.
You're like, keep breathing that way,
so you'll come back. So how do people get in touch with you? Where are you located? What's the best place to find you?
Yeah, so for me, I've tried to modernize chiropractic in a lot of ways. And for one, it's booking appointments as well. And so most people, if they just go onto my website, you know, www.suprachiropractic.com.
It's Supra.
Yeah, Supra, not super.
Supra.
Well, another thing for that, there's a car named the Supra. So we'll talk about that as well. But so Supra, Supra, and then chiropractic.com. It just comes up with a prompt that just says book your appointment now. Click on it, it takes you to a link where you don't need to pay anything up front. You can just schedule online. For first patients, it's just the red new patient visit. It walks you through everything. Easy. It's super easy. I mean, it takes people...
And you're really active on YouTube, too.
Yeah.
You post a lot of videos for educational purposes.
Yep. I think I have, as of right now in 2024, I have over 300 videos on YouTube for Supra Chiropractic.
Yeah.
And I try to get out at least 2 to 3 videos a month if I can.
Nice.
So, but
Some you may have to have a strong stomach for.
Yeah. Some of them.
Have you watched some of them? Like,
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, some of them are pretty intense, especially now that we're showing a lot more of the dry needling and
Yeah.
educating people on that.
And
that
the
those
muscle
ones get,
scraping.
yeah,
Whoa.
muscle scraping on bodybuilders is pretty intense. So
do they scream? Do they cry?
no, I don't let them.
They're tough.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. Well,
They're crying on the inside,
Yeah.
just like.
They're just
Yeah.
muted. They're just muted.
yeah, we
He
just
just
mute
cuts
out
the sound out
all
while
the
they're
bad
doing
stuff
that
in
part.
there. Yeah, seriously though.
In the background, you see them.
Yeah. Well, that's why most of them are face down.
Yeah. So, okay, what is that muscle scraping?
So the term that most people, I mean, I just call it muscle scraping just because it's.
I can understand what
you call it what it is basically, but
Yeah.
People have heard it from like the term of like Graston is another popular like word for it.
Yeah.
But it's basically taking metal or ceramic tools that can kind of carve into the body.
You're basically breaking down fascia and muscles and
Yeah.
things like that because like they've always talked about fascia blasting and
Yeah.
so it's
yeah.
the same concept and that stuff's painful.
It is very painful. Yes.
Like
yeah.
I've done a little bit of that on certain parts where I'm like mother of pearl. Like
Well, like he has some videos that like people's
This
like,
is making me wanna
whole
bite my nails.
back is like
Yeah.
covered and the legs.
see, like I had my husband the other day try to like do something like that on my hips and I was like, I'm gonna die. Like that
Yeah.
hurts so much. There's probably things we need to talk about with my hips, but I don't want to.
See,
I
that's
don't
why I
want to
don't go
do
to the
that.
gym.
Yeah.
Oh, that might help my problems, but heaven forbid I do that.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, a lot of people go fairly light. Like a lot of physical therapists do it. Some chiropractors do it, and they usually go pretty light over
Yeah.
it because most physical therapists are on a protocol with you, and so they've got to see you 8 to 12 to 20
Right.
times for their protocol. So they'll just kind of touch it up every time. Versus if I tell someone, "Hey, come in and see me one time," I've got to take
You've got to bust
8
it
times
up.
or 12 times the intensity. And
So
put
does it
into
make
one.
the muscles look better or something?
It can in some ways. It'll like I've done it on like a good area, let's say for female bodybuilders, right? Is in either the I guess a good category would be like bikini, right? So bikini bodybuilding competitors, female athletes, they have to have certain areas that look really good on them. So for one, it's the glutes, right, or the butt area. And so if they are lacking in, let's say, the top like shelf of the glute area, that's when I can go in and scrape it so that it brings more blood to the area, and so it actually looks
Plumper.
way more plump and way more
Okay.
full of a muscle.
That's cool.
So
I'm just
we don't do the
I
chest.
don't need
sorry.
implants anymore.
So-
I'm just kidding.
But yeah, so
I'm
it's,
so inappropriate. It's fine.
It works really good. It is just painful. That's kind of the
Yeah.
downside. It can be very, very painful.
Okay.
So
Okay. So they go to suprachiropractic.com to set up an appointment with you,
They're located in Layton.
located in Layton. And then you're on Facebook as well.
yep.
And so there's a lot of ways to find him. And if you can't find him, you can find him through us and things like that. So reach out to him. It's a different experience than most chiropractors that I've either talked to or heard
You've
about.
almost convinced me.
We're trying. Well,
Trevor has fears.
yeah. Well, I guess
Legit
that
fears.
other question too so we talked about the 3 questions, right?
Yeah.
The first one, which is obviously it's so obvious, is it's the question of can you help me, right? So can you help me? How much money is it going to cost and how much time is it going to take, right?
Yeah.
Most chiropractors will say, yes, I can help you, right? And that's just kind of we're all genuine people to start with.
Yeah.
And so we want to help people. That's the
Yeah.
underlying kind of reason why all chiropractors are chiropractors is to help people. But yeah, so in the end, yeah, if I'm a good fit for somebody and they've done their research, they've gone on YouTube and seen me, and they want to come to see me, that's when I can do my best work and help.
What's your YouTube channel? Just Supra
Supra
Chiropractic?
Chiropractic,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. So definitely reach out to him. If I were going to recommend anybody for chiropractic, it would be John. So thank you for coming in.
thank you.
It's been really fun to talk to you and learn a little bit more. And we'll get Trevor convinced one of these days,
Yeah.
right, Trev?
Don't cross your fingers.
Has nothing to do with John.
It's just me. It's just me.
But thanks for coming in.
Yeah, no, thank
Right.
you.
Yeah.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
For sure.